Practical tools for richer living.
Just your heart to show you how you can be the change if you want.
We join in partnership with.
All right, so some things that you want to keep in mind. So Seaside is a thriving community and we have events happening all the time. So here are just a few things that are happening here at Seaside. So the Deep Sound Meditation is every Monday through the summer. So August 27th is the last chance, but that does mean that you have tomorrow and next week. So we have two last series of Deep Sound Meditation. Make sure that you get in here because it's absolutely transformative and beautiful, and it's done with a whole bunch of bowls, and it's always a good time. So if you've been there, just raise your hand so I can see how many. See, we need more hands up. You see that? More people. It's always a good time. That's on Mondays. Open mic is on Wednesdays, and if you are a singer, if you are a comedian, if you have a magic show, whatever is your talent, go ahead and show up on Wednesday nights. And if you feel like you just don't want to do any of that, you can always come and support. September 10th starts the Seaside Sisters Sacred Space. And September 14th, we have James Von Prague coming in. And if you don't know about James, he is a medium, and he's world-renowned. He's got tons of books, and he'll be here with Lynn Probert. And she's coming in from the UK. What they do is that they do this tag team, and they talk to one individual about whoever is talking to them from the other side. I was here last year when he was here, and my great-grandmother had just passed at 104. And that's then when I knew that I was going to have to take care of myself because I'm going to be here a long time. And my great-grandmother and I never really had a strong connection, but through that evening, I discovered how to connect with her, and I'm actually closer to her now than I was when she was here. So it's a very healing space, and that's September 14th. We are selling tickets at the family room in the back table. September 23rd, we have the Board of Trustees lunch, which means that you get free food, free music, great people. September 23rd, make sure you put it in your calendars. And October 22nd, we have the golf tournament. We have a table set up in the family room. John and Emily are putting together this entire day of golfing. And if you're not into golfing, I'm pretty sure you all are. There's a banquet afterwards, and the banquet is food. Rebecca Jade will be there with her crew, and they're amazing and beautiful. I know that if you've been to anything that Rebecca Jade does, it's always delightful. So it's only $50, and again, there's a table in the family room. Let's see. Tama Kieves is coming next week, and I have a little video for you guys, just so you can get a little taste of who she is.
Teach you how to stay inspired no matter what's going on. I want to help you thrive no matter what's going on. This isn't about waiting till someday and waiting till you have it all together and waiting for circumstances to change. This is your life, and I want to help you right now thrive through uncertainty. Because you might be going through a career transition, you may be going through a health situation, you may be in the middle of a divorce, you may have just gotten married, you might be doing the business of your dreams and trying to raise it to a whole new level, only it's just kind of like sitting there at a whole other level, right? So whatever the transition is, whatever the challenge is, whatever the situation that you're in, very often what's coming up is a challenge to your identity. You don't know who you are sometimes. You don't even know what you want, or you know what you want, but you can't see how to get there. You think there's a million options or paths or things that you should know. And what I want you to know is that there is already a path inside you.
So that is Tama Kieves, and she will be here next week for the 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. service, and then she's doing a workshop right after. It's $25 at the door, and she will be having the entire workshop from 1 to 3. So go ahead and put that in your calendar. All right, and done. After service, so Cafe on Lake, which doesn't mean you have to go to a lake. It's actually here on site. It's on Lake Drive, and this is what we're having today. Summer soup, salad, and sandwich, which is a carrot, ginger, lime, and turmeric soup or cream of broccoli. Mexican street corn soup, curry chickpea sliders, sweet and spicy decaffeinated tea. And that's gonna be $10 after second service, which will give you just enough time to get your lunch and then come back for Carlton Pearson's 1 p.m. showing of his Netflix original movie, Come Sunday. There's so much happening, I know. So, I did want to, today is a very, very special day because if you didn't already know, Reverend Rosedale had her new journey little potluck yesterday, and it was absolutely beautiful. And just in case you didn't know about Reverend Rosedale, here's a tidbit. Reverend Rosedale was a police officer in Brooklyn, and then she went to law school. And then she found science of mind. And so she has been on this journey for 17 years, where today we can call her Reverend Rosedale Jones. And so I want to take this time with all of you in community to stand up and give her a round of applause as we say thank you, Reverend Rosedale.
I'll be back.
And you may stay standing to greet your neighbors.
Good morning, Seaside. Please remain standing for the congregational song led by Marianne Lewis. All right. Good morning, good morning, good morning, Seaside. How are you all this morning? So good to be here. Y'all ready to shine your light? Your beautiful, beautiful light. All right, hey. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Yeah, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All around the world, around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. All around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. All around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, hey, I'm gonna let it shine. Don't you know, everywhere I go, you're gonna let it shine. Oh, everywhere, hey, yeah, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. What you got, Bob? Max, you got something? This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. You got to know this little light of mine. Hey, I'm gonna let this big light of mine, this big light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, 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 let it shine. Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Seaside. Reverend Rosedale's in the house. Well, anyway, I'll be telling you more about that in a little while. But first, I want you all to know that if you're new here in the house, welcome, because we're about to bring on our prayer, honey, and prayer moves things. You hear me? It moves it in a mighty way. So give prayer a hand. And now what I'm going to do is to bring up our fabulous practitioner to set the tone, David Kennedy.
Good morning. Today I feel love and peace and harmony and beauty that I call God. God is flowing in, around, and through me right now, bringing me that love and peace and harmony and beauty. And I know that God is flowing in, around, and through you right now. Feel that love and peace and harmony and beauty in the stillness of our sanctuary. And I know that the words coming from Bishop Carlton today are inspired by God, by that love and that harmony. And the music is blessed every day by Science of Mind and the Church of Religious Science and Seaside. And I say, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Good morning, Seaside. Instead of our usual call to worship, we have a beautiful guest that is here with us this morning. Drove down from Los Angeles to be here with us. She is the assistant director of the choir at Agape, and she's had the pleasure of singing for the Dalai Lama, Stevie Wonder. She's down here with us this morning to be part of this whole celebration and stories and telling and sharing. And so please help me welcome Marianne Lewis.
Oh Lord, my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the worlds thy hands have made, I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe display. Then sings my soul, that loving God in me. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, that loving God in me. How great
Rebecca. Thank you so much. No, I'm saying thank you for the mic. Thank you for the mic, Rebecca. And thank you so much, Miss Lewis. You are fabulous, Marianne. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Give her a hand. Oh, welcome, 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 welcome. My name is Reverend Rosedale Jones now. I am ecstatic, and y'all know for the last 2 years I would count it down. I said, oh, I got another year. Oh, I got another 6 months. Oh, but guess what? I had the panels 2 weeks ago and became Reverend Rosedale. Woo! So it's gonna be a lot of things that happen here today, and you'll see how life seems so wonderful. But before I do that, as I welcome you, I'm gonna tell you, and I'm gonna show and tell. You know how we have the welcome pack, as I always say, we always get, and I learned that from Reverend Tammy, matter of fact. She's here, give her a hand, y'all. And she would always get up here with her beautiful presence, and she'd say these words I'm about to say. And you go outside, and you go to the family room, and you pick up a welcome packet, but I'm gonna show it to you too. And if you knew, you get to get all of these wonderful contents, even stuff that Christian said. So you get to hear him too, even though he's away. Oh, I'm just a different shade, but he's still here, you know. The presence, you know what I mean? It's all about the presence. So anyway, now you will love this community, because when I came to this community, I was welcomed, I was excited, and just as excited as I am today. And I know that if you're new and you've never been here before, you're gonna feel that same love, non-judgment from everybody here. And if you don't feel it from them, then don't talk to that person. How about that? So anyway, you know who's coming here next week? I know I gotta be silly, right? You know who's coming here next week? Tama Kieves. Now, Tama Kieves, she was born Jewish, Orthodox Jewish, and she was raised in Brooklyn, New York, like I was raised in New York City too, right? And she had a boyfriend. She was honored. She had the honors in law school, Harvard Law School to boot, right? Her boyfriend gave her a book on A Course in Miracles. She read the book. She heard what was being said. She repeated what was being said. And she found out that there was this power within her that was more powerful than anybody outside of her. Just like I learned that. Just like you learned that. Just like we all know that, because I think we were born knowing that. So I know that because of her, she's gonna be here next week, and I wanna give you a couple of notes that she said and that I took, all right? And these are her words. So when you hear the eyes, it's not really me, but it is me, okay? You see me talking, don't you? Okay. The Bible teaches that you cannot pour new wine in old skins. And I'll tell you that you can't pour 1,000 miracles or even one miracle into a judgment-caked mind. We need to let go of our locked-in way of thinking so that we can open the fluidity and genius of seeking and seeing and experiencing our lives differently. When you see it right, you said it right. We let go of fear by letting go of our assumptions, interpretations, opinions, entrenched ideas about how things should work, and think about reality. You see, we are thinking very well. The mind thinks without us. You don't need to use it. If you had to think, oh my God, right? So if that were to happen, we need lessons that are designed to disrupt our prevalent thought patterns, the ones that are not working for us. Okay? So if you feel stuck in your life, it's because you're cemented in your way of thinking. So while I'm stuck in judgment, I can't open to guidance. If I insist on hanging on to the ideas that frustrate me, I'm only blocking my way and my inspiration. So let's remember those words. When she comes next week, you know how she thinks.
Good morning, Seaside. What a beautiful day. It is my honor to introduce, we have a special guest that is also going to be here singing before Bishop Carlton, and it is his lovely daughter. So we'd like to welcome up here Majesty.
Give it up for the band real quick. Yes, 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 yes. So happy to be here. The song that we're doing for you all here is Rise Up. You're broken down and tired of living life on merry-go-round, and you can't find a
not me. So anyway, oh, that girl is fabulous. And you know, she was fabulous. Okay. Ooh, Rosedale, you got to calm down, sister. You get all carried away. You get all carried away and don't know how to handle yourself. Whew. And you know what's so exciting? I just made minister 2 weeks ago. But 20 years ago, I was saying in New York, Spirit, how can I find my higher self? It seemed that my life was just at the pits at that time, okay? So here's what happened. From that moment, I said, help me find my higher. I didn't see it right away, of course. The engine got on the front of that train and started moving. And I just got on the train and came on with it, right? I ended up meeting Carlton Pearson, knowing of him, being under his tutelage. And, well, I don't know what year that was, but some 20 years ago. And I remember the things he was saying. And he's saying some of them now, but I'm not going to let the cat out the bag. But I learned something this morning, a new thing from him. It's why I look up when I say, thank God. But he's going to tell you that part about the stars looking back at you. But that's why we look up, right? So anyway, I remember that. I remember the things he was saying back in the day that they thought was so politically incorrect. But guess who was believing him and following him? Why? So I brought that out about myself because as I became minister, I got asked to be the one to introduce him some 20 years later after he went through the journey that he had to go through. And I can imagine what he went through when everyone left him. They all thought he was crazy. They said, oh my God, whoa, get away from him. But you know what? He kept stepping. He must have been on that train with me. Okay? Because right now, that's right. And I bet you a lot of you got on the train too. All right? So we are all shifting one day at a time. Shift happens, right? And right now, you're going to hear the shift in this man's voice as I welcome Carlton Pearson to our stage.
Thank you. Yeah. Turn to somebody and say, I'm going to help you get your shift together this morning. My shift hit the fan about 15 years ago, and now I get to speak to intelligent, progressive, cultural creatives like you. Christian and Callie Sorensen's are very dear friends of ours. I met them through Pam and JD, who were here some years ago. When I first went through the whole shift, and I walked away from my ministry. Those of you who will see the movie, or if you've already seen it, you know a little bit about my theological crisis. My God logic shifted. Theo is God, logos is really word in Greek, but it means also logic or logistics, divine logistics. The logistics of my God consciousness shifted. And I told my congregation of over 5,000 people what I had thought. I'd actually read the book, part of the book, Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. And one of my elders in the church handed it to me, and I didn't check it out. I just started reading it and loved it and got up the next Sunday morning and mentioned it to the congregation. And some of them rushed out to get it the next day to the Christian bookstores, and it wasn't there. And then they went to the secular bookstores and they said, I need the book Conversations with God, and they pointed to the New Age section. I lost like 30 families that week because they're afraid of New Age, afraid of new thought, afraid of new ways of thinking. Practice doesn't just make perfect, it can make permanent. And sometimes there's a permanent paradigm in your thinking that has to go through radical change for you to be free. The word religion actually means to bind or be in bondage. And that's what the reference to old wine is. You know, you can sip on new wine for a while, and eventually you start getting high. And when you get high enough, you lose all your inhibitions, and then you start telling what's really there. So I was sipping on new wine, and one day I got up drunk in church, and and it scared the hell out of everybody in the whole church. So they all left. I mean, they fled by the thousands to go from hero to zero, because we had started the church ourselves, it was a stunning nudity. I was stripped of everything, and I had to rethink. When I come home to San Diego, I always fly in over my high school. I graduated from San Diego High. I was student body president there back in 1971. It was called the Gray Castle in those days. And I fly over the cemetery where nearly everybody I love is buried. All the people, the pillars and pillows, the older, sweet, saintly people that I laid my head and heart on in times of pain, they're all gone. And so coming back here is repeatedly a challenge, because you have to remember, when you get my age, 65, every phone call, somebody's dying or transitioning, somebody's going through something. So I'm now, because I came out here and stayed with Pam and JD in their home with all the emails. And I was reading through those emails, having lost everything, and most of my friends, I felt like I had nobody, nothing. Then all these thousands of emails start coming in, like 2 or 3 a minute. And they were stating, many of them were people like you who had already been enlightened and was trying to encourage me. That's where I read the email from Cosby Show, Lisa Bonet, yeah. Her name was actually in the email and her phone number. So the Lord told me to call. And she was actually stating that she supported the ministry. Supported what I was saying. She understood it. And when she said, so I called her that night. She came to Tulsa with the producer for how Stella got her groove back and a couple of others. And she began talking about the movie that we're going to see later on today. She started the ball rolling for that just by talking. Then I went to Agape, and she interviewed, videotaped Michael interviewing me, Michael Beckwith, about this whole consciousness, and it was kind of introducing me to a whole new world. This was only 15 years ago, and the evolution has been increasingly powerful, and I thank Pam and JD for introducing me to Christian and Callie, and I get to come back here again. Some of you are here for the first time. This is my second time, I think, coming here. I love this place. I love what you represent. I'm glad that I'm among you and that I'm thinking anew. Starting all over. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, David. Some folk call themselves New Thought and haven't actually had one in 30 or 40 years. So I'm really thinking anew. I'm really expanding my consciousness. I'm way out there. But I think about my roots, how I got here, and I think all of us ask this question: how do we get here? Why have we come here? Who planted us on this planet or plane net? Who put us in this plane of consciousness? How do we connect to this plan, this operative? Something inside of us reminds us that we're here by purpose, on purpose, and we're trying to figure out what that is. Mark Twain says the 2 most important days of your life is the day you're born and the day you realize why. Why did I come here? Why did 300 or 400 million microscopic seed from my dad chase the one egg? Just one egg that my mom had. And all of them died, except that one Greek word sperma that germinated my mother's egg, fertilized it, and your mother's egg. You're one out of several hundred million who came. When that seed germinated that egg, instantly your genetic code was established. Your genesis, your genuineness, the genie or gen in you came into being. The genie, genius, or gen as you came alive. Your DNA was ultimately stamped on every cell in your body. Now that makes you reverence. Every time I fly over the cemetery, I think of how I got here. Because we're all on our way, so they say, back to that dust, from the ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The flesh, but not my spirit. My infinite self always exists. From the time you breathe first out of your mother's womb, having swam for 9 months in water like fish. At the end of the 9 months, most of what you're swimming in is urine. Your own. My dad always said to me when I came out, and my son did the same thing, we just tried to pay that water bill as soon as we came out. My dad looked at my son. He was there standing with me when my son was born. He said, that boy came into the world pissed off. He just You're attached to your mother's fluids, and we learn how to swim first. I love the Pacific Ocean. I'm going to sprinkle my dad's ashes in there before I leave. He loved it too. Pacifica. Actually, the stormiest of the seven seas. But when I think it was Cabrillo that crossed it, there was no storms. And so he named it Pacifica, peace. Some of the stormiest situations can be peaceful to you if you don't know that they're not supposed to be. So I think of my roots, how I got to this planet, how I came here, and how my parents may have decided to have me, but God decided to send me. Your parents may have or may not have decided to have you, but God decided to send you. The universe said you must come, and you agreed to come, even if you forgot about it. In some pre-incarnate reality, I think we agreed. We entered a contract with our soul and with ourselves to start breathing air. Whatever gills we used to swim in, we don't need them as much anymore. But we came here, and the more at my age, I'm thinking, I'm not here. I used to think I was a victim of creation or victim of destiny or victim of circumstances. I think I agreed. I'm having these deja vus. It's weird. My soul remembers something that is pre-incarnate. I love the passage in the scriptures where Jeremiah describes a conversation he may have had with God, where he says that God said, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. That term knew is a very intimate term. It means that you were not only known, but you knew. When Adam knew Eve, Cain was born in the allegory. I knew. I was intimate. I was one with creation. I am part of creation. And the number one quality in you that is like your divine self or from God is your ability to create. We're not just created, we're creative, and we're actually creating right now. Yes. Not only are you creating bodily fluids and saliva and urine and capillaries and blood, you are creating. In fact, last night you created today by making your mind up, prophesying that you'd be here. And the prophecy came true. And you decided the clothes that you were wearing. Most of you decided it last night, or some of you just threw something together, obviously, this morning. And but you're predicting a lot. You're clairvoyant by nature. You do have extrasensory perceptions. You're seeing things. You feel things. It's like you're living in a parallel universe, and they're overlapping one another, and you're shifting in forms, and perception is the ultimate reality, but not necessarily the ultimate truth. And your truth is in motion. It's evolving and involving. I'm rediscovering. It took me half a century to go from self-loathing to self-loving, to start believing that not only did God love me, but that God might even like me. I came from a strict religious background. I call us Metacostals. My Pentecostalism was transcendent. You know, when people would go into trances, literally. And that's what was part of the meaning of transcendent. You actually go into a trance. You live between seasons like musicians, and you have one of the best bands in the state right here. These guys are off the chain. My God. And most musicians, and the word music comes from the word muse, which means to think. It's called the science of the musings. To amuse is the opposite. It's to stop thinking. And we need both. We need to know how to still our souls and stop thinking and just exist. But then the musings, and it's very powerful, but musicians usually don't live on the note, they live between the notes. They're spacey folk. It's like lyricists don't live on the word, they live in the space between the words. That's a mysterious space, and we all go and come between the notes and between the words, the silence. What happens in that space? That's where you really are. We're not, as you've heard, just human beings looking for spiritual experiences. We are spirit, pneuma, breath, having an earthly encounter. We have a mind, we have a body, but we are spirit, we are essence. When I say your essential self, I mean your permanent rather than your accidental self. Before I formed you, before you had physical form, when you were skinless, sinless, endless, spaceless, you knew. And were known. You came here knowing, but between the womb and the tomb, we all go through this spiritual amnesia and we forgot we decided to come here and we panic and freak out. The only time I really get really panic is when I forget that I agreed to come here. It's the amnesia. And I start having these Holy Ghost, I call Holy Ghost deja vus. I did that, wait a minute. Oh, man, another thing. Hey, dang it, I forgot I signed up for this shift. All these different transitions. I said, shit, my mother said, spell it, boy, S-H-I-F-T. Turn to somebody and say, get your shift together. We're always going through, whether it's marital, whether it's the transition of a loved one. And from the time we come from our mother's womb, we are going back to wherever we came from. I met Michael J. Fox. He flew to Tulsa to spend a couple of days with me because he was writing a book and he heard my story. He actually heard it on This American Life, from which the movie was produced. But my favorite movie of his is Doc Holliday. But I didn't like the movie, but I like the term Back to the Future. I think we're all going back to our future. Whatever that is, that we came here from someplace and we're going. So Jesus said, is quoted to have said, in my Father's house, there are many mansions. The Greek word would mean dimensions, really places and spaces and levels and floors and spheres and planes. We're all in the same house, just on different floors and sometimes in different forms in this parallel universe, where we are not just multidimensional, we are interdimensional. We go from one floor to another, sometimes in matters of seconds, and you call it out-of-body experiences. You are very spiritual. You have a mind, you have a body, but we are that essence, that breath. Jesus says, they that worship God must worship God in spirit and truth. Spirit, worshiping spirit. If God is spirit and you worship in spirit, you don't only worship in spirit, you worship as spirit. When you're singing these anthems or these hymns, the actual word comes from the hymen. It's the wedding song. When you sing out of the marriage of the soul to itself, and the hymns and hums and the feelings of being here and connecting with the science of this planet and what that means. I often say that life is basically a sexually transmitted disease. Ain't nobody right. Write that down. Take that one. Your mom and them was intimate, even if they weren't married. Disease, the English word is dis-ease. That's the origin of the term. This tension, this anxiety, this stretch and strain of trying to fit into the incarceration or the carnation, the enfleshment of these bodies. Our spirits are not always comfortable here and stretching, and eventually transcends the flesh, and we bury it. And it keeps going in your infinite, that means unfinishable. Your unfinished being, you're constantly going and growing. We don't, time doesn't move through us, we actually move through time. We're always going back to that other place. And when somebody asks you or says to you, how are you doing? They're basically saying, how are you dying? How you dying this morning? I'm dying pretty good. And if it's not a good day, you say, I ain't dying so good today. Because we're all going back to that space or place. Life is a sexually transmitted disease that's incurable. And it's terminal because we all go through the transition we call death. But it's not untreatable. That's why you're here. You're in treatment here today. This is group therapy. Literally, the Greek word for healing most often used in the New Testament is therapeuo, not iomai. Iomai means to cure, but it's therapy. Therapon is the root word. It means a janitor or a custodian. We're in custodial care here. And we minister to each other by going through somebody giving us attention or attending to the pain. You know, we have coping mechanisms and behavioral modifications, but it's all for the point of managing the pain, the pathos. How can I treat my pain? And most of our pain is historical. It comes out of our past. Many marriages, and I did a marriage at Half Moon Bay yesterday in San Francisco, right on the Pacific Ocean, the Ritz-Carlton, fabulous place. And marriage is not just the coming together of two lives, it's basically the collision of two histories. Talk to me, somebody. You're sorting through and sorting in and sorting out and trying to figure out what all of that means. Generally, the husband wants to be appreciated, the wife wants to be cherished. But we all want to be loved, and not only loved, but liked. I've always taught as a kid, God loves you, God loves you, God loves you. And the emphasis, but he don't like you, so you need to change. God loves you, but God don't like you, so you need to be baptized, or you need to do this, or you need to join, or you need to quit smoking, and quit drinking wine, and don't have coffee, and don't eat any strong drink, and don't wear that clothes, and go to church on this day, and baptize this way. And God loves you, but if you don't, but he doesn't like you, and he loves you, and if you don't believe he loves you, you go to hell. Two extremes. I love you with all my heart. I love you, I care for you, I gave my son for you, and if you don't believe that, to hell with you. That's the doctrine I was raised with. That's the way I was taught. God loves me, and if I don't believe it, he's going to kill me. And not only kill me, but torture me in a customized torture chamber called hell. And he's got anger management problems. The God I was raised had serious anger management. He'd throw these tantrums and tsunamis and earthquakes and cancer and AIDS. He was angry. You never knew how he was going to tick him off, so you were tipping around trying to appease an angry God and please a difficult one. That's called religion. Scared of him. I love you, and if you don't believe it, I will burn your tail for you. I said to my fundamentalist friends, do we need Jesus to protect us from God? The reason why most fundamentalists worship Jesus is because they like Jesus better than God. They think Jesus is a better God than God, or he's better at being God. He's a kinder, more gentler George Bush Sr. 1,000 points God. Kinder, gentler God. So this whole idea of love and commitment, the scripture says love is patient. I say love is a patient in need of affordable health care. Thank you, President Obama. If you don't treat love is almost like a disease. It's like one we're all afflicted with. Nobody can hurt you or harm you or even hate you like somebody you love or who loves you. Come on, don't be afraid. That's why it hurts so bad. Because there's love involved in that. And this whole mixed feeling we've had, and it's caused a global psychosis. Most deeply religious people are mentally ill. If you study what mental illness is, look it up. In fact, psychologists tell us that 1 out of 5 people you meet are mentally ill. Count down the road, 1 to that 5th one, he's crazy. Count back their way. If they count toward you, you're going to be the one you're going to be the 5th one. Because we're all dealing with this sort of mental psychosis, this paranoia. We lose touch with reality. One of the reasons people take drugs is not because they're bad people, but drugs is a little bit of a escapism. It's a mind-altering situation. You go into some kind of euphoric consciousness, and you feel like the pain stops for a little bit. People are into I like to call it astrology, astrotheology. Aster is the Greek word for star. Theology is God talk and God thought. God language, God lingo, God logistics, theologos, the logic, the reason, the rationale, the logistics of God. It's different than the one that I've studied, and I'm a biblical literature major, biblical literature English Bible. My minor was theology and historical studies. And I've done so much studying till I realized that a lot of what I was taught is erroneous, inaccurate, corrupt. That the greatest story ever told may just be the greatest story ever sold. And we bought it and bought into it. Some scary, creepy stuff in there. And I know many people worship the Bible. I understand that. I take the Bible seriously, just not literally. I think it's more important what Jesus said about God than what the church says about Jesus. Because we struggle with we can't even prove that the actual historical Jesus ever really existed, except in the Bible. There's no proof. Because the word Jesus is Yeshua in Hebrew, or Joshua. So if I pray for you in the name of Joshua, you might get upset, but there were a lot of Joshuas in Israel. Right? That's why they speak of Jesus of Nazareth. He was the one that supposedly had the healing miracles. And I prayed in his name. I've been around the country, the world, preached to thousands, as many as 250,000 in a live setting, and millions by way of television. And I've come through all this situation, and now the shift in my thinking, my God logic has changed. When you read in the 6th chapter of the first book of 66 books in the Protestant Bible, the Protestant Bible, that's what that means. Luther, they protested Roman Catholicism, and they still protest. So the 6th chapter of the first book, Genesis, genetics, origins, genitals, where things start. That God says, and 6 is the number of the flesh, the number is 6 feet under, the number of death, the number of doom, the number of stopping, biblical numerology. The 6th chapter, that God says, I don't like y'all. None of you. In fact, I regret I even made you. You're mortals. It's scary. Most of y'all obviously haven't read that one, but it's in there. It's the 6th chapter of Genesis. It gives you a little hint into this whole religion around that God. I've recently fired him, but that one said, I don't like you. My spirit's not going to always strive with you. You're human. You're mortals. And a few chapters earlier, he says, you're good. I made you, and everything I made is good. Now he says, I want to out. I want a divorce. I'm done with this. This sucks. I don't like the earth pride. Then he drowned everybody in the world, except Noah and his wife and his 3 sons and their wives. Noah preached 120 years and didn't get anybody saved but his wife and children. I got drunk too. I mean, he got drunk right after that. Obviously, you haven't read that either, so I can understand. I understand why some of y'all don't read that book. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But I studied it. I studied its character, not only the translation, but the transliteration, the letters, what the alphabets of the Hebrew language means. It's not even considered a modern language. And so you go through Hebrew and Greek and Latin, and of course Germany between the Gutenberg press. The Bible was not even mass produced until 1400 years after Christ. 1400 years, and then most of the world was illiterate. It wasn't canonized until 300 years after Jesus. Men, no women, men sat around the table drinking wine and getting high and fussing and cussing about what would go in and what would go out. And they kept, there's been 100,000 changes in the King James Version, 1611 to 1779. I mean, the Bible is not a literal, accurate book, and you shouldn't call it the inspired word of God as much as maybe the inspired word of man, and some of it is now expired. It's irrelevant to this day. And I know that shocks everybody, but the religion that we've experienced and expressed for the last 2,000 years, in the next 50 to 100 years, will probably dissipate, and it may even disappear, and a new kind of spiritual mysticism will sweep in, and we'll see God in and as us rather than someplace else on the ground. And I don't say that trying to be arrogant in any way. My own experience of God is different than the one they taught me in Sunday school. I've been scared of that God all my life. I got saved when I was 6, but never felt safe. The whole time, I didn't know when I was going to take that God off. With them, he making a list, checking it twice, going to find out who's naughty or not. I don't know what I was talking about, Jesus or Santa Claus. He knows when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows if you are good or bad. So what? Be good for goodness sake. My Apple phone has an apple with a bite out of it on the back of it. Apple phone, iPad, iPhone, iCloud. These kids live in the clouds. They don't even pay attention to this stuff. They live in the mists, the moisture. Remember, when we're born, we're 80% water. That's why I love the Pacific Ocean. I'm Pisces, so I love the unfathomable depths swimming around. Trouble with the Pisces, sometimes that fish tail is connected to one going in opposite directions. So I'm glad that Aquarius is here. So they say the wind sign and moisture and the aqua and the rising of the seashores and the melting of the glaciers, and it's frightening with global warming, but water, moisture is always a metaphor for spirit. And there's all this water. We're going out of a religious era into a spiritual era. Jesus is even recorded in Luke 22 as saying to his disciples on the last night on the planet, feast of the Passover, he said, go into the street, and when you see a man carrying a pitcher of water, follow him into that house. Jesus lived during the Pisces season. This now is Aquarius. And the man, that's a male doing female. And most men didn't carry water. They were busy, they would fish or they would go kill menacing beasts, but there was always the woman at the well. So you'll see men in touch with their feminine aspect differently and doing things that females do just as well. And you'll see women in touch with their masculine side doing things that men do just as well. Ultimately, there will be a female president in the White House. There will be a president of the United States that's just as feminine but strong and powerful, in touch with her feminine and her masculine, her denim and her linen. Talk to me, somebody. Here's how some men express their femininity. They don't say, "He hurt me," because they're afraid to say that. Even though many times men are hurt, they'll say, "I'm a man. I'm in charge here. I don't need no woman. I don't need nobody. Don't nobody tell me what to do. I'm going to see my mom." The first woman that a man ever loves is his mom. Takes his first meal from her breast. Physically and emotionally connects to her and loves her, and then tends to take that same thing into his marriage. Some men call their wives mama. Mama? They don't usually do that till they have the first baby. I remember when I called my wife mama the first time, she said, "Oh, no, that ain't gonna work here. I ain't your mama." One time we were having this real intense discussion. Some people call it an argument. And I said to her inadvertently, "Sweetheart, I don't feel safe when you say that." And she started crying. I said, what happened? She says, I've never heard you say that before. And I thought, I didn't mean for you to hear me say it then. It slipped out. Because a man's supposed to be acting like he's strong. He's got his stuff together. That's the denim. It doesn't tear as easily as the linen. We have both sides. And if you deny either, you're messing up your head. And you disturb the order. Talk to me, somebody. So I'm learning how to expand my consciousness in this sexually transmitted dis-ease. And I'm learning how to get around the tensions and relax, release, relinquish, and just be me. And be free. Be there or be square. Turn to somebody and say, I'm evolving into me. Say it. So I'm doing pretty good, and I'm getting better at it all the time. When you become more astrological, both the sea, did you know that the Hebrew word for oil is shemen, or we get the English word semen? The Garden of Gethsemane, crushing of the seed, the olive seed, crushed, not just the skin or meat, but the whole seed of the olive. I've been to Israel 12 times, and how that olive oil comes out of the olive, and when we go through the seminary to be inseminated with whatever doctrine that particular church believes. Christianity and Judaism are fertility religions. We worship on Sunday, and tomorrow's Moon Day. Yesterday was Saturn Day. Most folk don't know that the names of our weeks and months are usually Greek gods and goddesses. We're all mythological. A lot of the stuff we put together, even to create the religion that we call Christianity, they were first called Christians at Antioch. The word called there in Greek, the tense for Greek is only twice in the New Testament. It's the same word that's used for a call girl, that they first started making money doing business as Christians in Antioch. Christianity Incorporated has always been a business. Part of the Holy Roman Empire. But then when Constantine, who worshipped sun gods, Venus is one of the goddesses, and she's god of romance and intimacy and creation and productivity. But we get the word venerable or venereal from that term. Because temple priests and priestesses had orgies in the temple, worshiping that life came. The genesis of life was from genitals. That's when you go into Europe, you see a lot of nude statues all over the place, and people freak out. They don't. Americans do. When the first missionaries went to the South Pacific and they saw the women who topless, they started freaking out, saying, to be Christian, women gotta cover up their breasts. The men over there the natives wouldn't have no struggle with the breast. The missionaries were struggling with the breast. They were afraid and intimidated by it. See, moral is the word custom. Whatever's customary is considered moral. But we address it based on our mindsets. And this is the change, and mark my word. And if you're a member of this church or you like this kind of thinking, you are the direction that religion is moving into new thought. Science means knowledge. Conscience or conscience means with knowledge. Conscientia in Latin, look it up. With knowledge. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil, or the knowledge of good in evil, or the good as evil, or the evil in good. Whatever creation and whoever creation is, we don't know. Our estimation of the word evil may be different from creation's word of evil. What it means. There's a science. This is the religion of tomorrow. It's bridging science to spirituality. That's why these kids are so into computers and laptops and cell phones and soul phones and the cloud, the mist, the moisture, the fluidity, the otherness. Nicodemus came to Jesus by night and was finished and said to him, we know that you are a teacher sent from God. Nobody could do these miracles except God be with him. Jesus looks at Nicodemus and says, you must be born again. You must have had some kind of awakening. Nicodemus said, what, dude, what you talking about? I don't want to go out a second time my mother. No. You've had an awakening. The Greek word for again is anothen. English, another. Other, ether. You've had some ethereal, transcendent experience. You connected with my anointing, my oil. You connected with my purpose. You know that I'm connected with divinity, and I reminded you of yours. Religion doesn't do that. But when you've transcended religion and gotten outside the walls and the parameters of any restrictions to yourself and soul, you become your divine self. You know you're divine, you just don't believe it. You know you're safe and gorgeous and wonderful and amazing and outstanding and terrific and magnificent, but you don't believe it. You came here knowing. You forgot how good you are. You forgot how secure you are. You forgot how intelligent you are. People always say, we need to learn to love. You don't learn to love, you forget to love. You learn to hate. We come here loving. We come here trusting. We come here knowing, and we cannot handle the pressure that religion puts on us. Most people who go into drugs are in there trying to relieve themselves of the pain. I don't judge a person based on what they do or did, but on what they were thinking 10 minutes before they did it. 10 weeks, 10 days, 10 years. What accumulates? You can have a moment of insanity and do something crazy. But it's building up to. Let me ask you a couple questions before I stop. First of all, what do you believe about you? Why do you believe that about you? And how do those beliefs about you add to or subtract from the quality of your life? Not just what you believe, but what do you believe about you? If you say, I love Christian Sorensen, I just adore him. What you're saying is, I love the part of myself that I experience when I'm hanging with him. Or Callie, or your mother, or your father, whoever you love. And same thing, he said, I can't stand so-and-so. You're saying, I can't stand the part of me that surfaces when I'm with that person. That means the only person you'll ever love, not love, like, or not like is you. Now, you'll leave here and they'll say, how'd you enjoy the service? I always wonder, how'd you enjoy the song? How'd you enjoy the sermon? The question is not, did you enjoy the song, the sermon, or the song, or the service? How did you enjoy the self? Did you enjoy yourself? Whoa! That's that Metacostal over there. She ain't gonna last that long without bringing it, stretching it to the next level. That's in us. It connected. How do I like me? Honestly, I'm stopping on this last part. Then we're going to see the movie in a little bit. We're going to have a little lunch. Hey, look at that. That's me. I didn't know I was up there. I hadn't noticed it. Let me just ask you, I think, 3 or 4 questions, and I honestly stop. What's working for you? Think of your life. What's working for you? Secondly, what's not working for you? And if you were to make a list of the 2, which would be the longest? Thirdly, what's working on you? What keeps you awake at night? What is that itch that you have difficulty scratching? What's working as you? How do you show up in the world? What happens when you walk into a room? What signal do you send out into the universe? What is your significance? The late Viktor Frankl, psychiatrist, Holocaust survivor, died in Germany in his 90s. He said, to live is to suffer. To survive is to find meaning in the suffering, or to find significance, to find a sign in the assignment, or to find design, to find a signal, a signature. What is the significance of the pain? How I survived the hell I went through, to lose thousands of members and property, and I only looked in the plastic containers twice. The second time was when Harvard University was taking them to put in their library, in their divinity school. My wife said, you gotta look at that stuff. I said, baby, I cannot look at 50 years of my life packed in plastic crates. All my writings, all my books, all my literature, my notes. I walked into the office the day they were tearing down, and I got physically nauseous. The room just started spinning, and I didn't want to break in front of my staff. I never cried publicly. My assistant said, Pastor, why don't you go home? We'll handle this. I said, are you sure? She said, yes. I didn't even know where they stored the stuff in Tulsa. I'd spent almost $40,000 storing stuff like y'all do. If you had something stored for 30 years, obviously you don't need it, but you paying all that money. You done forgot what's in storage has gone into $1 billion industry. So what do you have stored in there? What's stacked away in some corner? It was opening that plastic was like looking at a coffin, a corpse in a coffin. I couldn't do it. I could not physically nauseous because everything was there. Then when Harvard took it, I was happy to let it go. And they're preserving it for perpetuity. It was just gathering dust. But I had to let go. Everybody say, let it go. Let it go. Release. Get those arms up. Now we're through. Come on. Shift the energy around. Release something. It might be an old relationship. It might be an old house. It might be the fact that you just lost a loved one, or you relinquished some control. You're now retired, but you feel refined. But come on, shift the energy around. I got to let it go. I got to release. I got to keep living. My infinite, my unfinishable person. Reality is still in existence. I'm moving through time. Times I'm moving through me. I'm moving through time. And I'm not only going with the flow, I'm growing with the flow. Even when the flow becomes a flood, I got to remember the waters. I came here swimming. I turned all the shift they threw on me, dung, to fertilizer. Talk to me, somebody. And like my grandma say, I done growed up. I done growed up through all that fertilizer, and I don't even smell like it. You can plant a potato in fertilizer. It can take all the nutrients from it. Take it right out of that fertilizer, wash it, peel it, eat it, and not take any of the nature of the germs. You did it. You bad. You got your stuff together. You got this. I love you. I respect you. I honor you. I appreciate you. Thank you for your time.
Didn't I tell you? The man did his homework. He did his homework. And now I know everybody got something out of this because that's what I prayed about. But you know what? I got something out of this here too. I'm still that Pentecostal baby. And now I see where I get it from. So now y'all understand, you know what? She can't help it. Back to our stage, my girl. Come on up here. Majesty on board Pearson. fabulous, isn't she, y'all? That's Majesty Pearson. Amwa Pearson. Oh, my God. Woo, girl. You can't come to my community, girl. You're going to have me blow a gasket in that place. Woo! Y'all, this service has rocked my soul. Didn't you? Can't you say that your soul is rocked? All right now. Yeah, buddy, y'all. Okay, I'm not going to keep you no longer because, I'm excited. Okay. Now it's time to call the ushers up front. Are we ready? And this is that time for that conscious giving. You know, we know that when we give, we receive, but as Christian says, it's not why we give. We give because we know that it comes back, and we are so reassured about that because the God we serve, okay, is more powerful than we used to think, right? So right now, allow it. So as they come up front, I say a little prayer, and we do the affirmation together, and then we will get into some of the jazz, right? So, it is with great honor that I know that these wonderful people who every single week come up for the wonderful offerings and come up as the ushers that do this work in Seaside grows us, and we're constantly growing. And we know that every dime we give, we're bringing on other souls that need this service, that need this prayer, that need this treatment, as Carlton Pearson so belovedly said. And I am so grateful this day for our offering that's coming up here and for the collection that we will be praying over when we're done. And so it is. So it is. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Continues to bless my world. Gratefully, I live as the given expression of spirit, opening the floodgates of the affluent flow as greater good as my life now. Woo! Now we can get the party started. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Seaside Band. And as we receive, as we give, it's all a balance, this wonderful balance, too, in, out, just like good, whatever. It's good and it's whatever. It's better and it's better. And the grace of God is in here right now as this wonderful basket is passed. And I know that it goes out to serve this world in mighty ways. And I'm so grateful for it. And thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. And this is Josh, your board member, board of trustees. Yeah. And thank you, Seaside Band. Oh yeah, okay. Bob Mathis on the sax. Boom, boom, boom. Blow that thing, baby. Yes, that band is fabulous, man. Y'all know it. I tell you all the time, don't I? Okay, no different. And thank you so much, Marianne Lewis, for coming all the way down from LA and gracing us with your beautiful voice and presence. Thank you so much. And Rebecca JJJ, you were fabulous, girl. You did your thing, girl. Ooh, you got here in time for she does it every single time. Oh my God. And whoa, Carlton Pearson, thank you for meeting me today. Wow, I am so grateful that I got an opportunity to actually see you. Wow, this is all so important to me. This is really good. So you know what, guys? It's all I can say is how good, but I see some wonderful little people here, young people. And do you have anything you want to share today? Maybe? Okay, wonderful. Let's hear what you have to share, sweetie.
We learned about adventures today by Miss Patty, and she showed her all her stuff about her adventures. And then we did everything about adventures, and then it was very fun for us. And we never did just like a little bit. Sophia.
Boy, you give them the mic, all that. You want to speak? Nope. I know what he does. I know him since he was a babino. But anyway, everybody, let's see them in their greatness. We see you. We love you. We support you in your magnificence. Yeah, there we go. Give it to them. Wow, y'all. Y'all in for a good ride today or what? Because you know that everybody up here, the band and everybody rock the house. As I sit here and I get ready to go into our prayer, honey, you know, I want to see all the practitioners stand like Christian does. I get to do that. And we get to do our little prayer together as a family. My Seaside practitioners that I stood with for the last couple of years. Yes. And there's this power that's within me that goes beyond me. Boy, it handles all things beyond me and it's working for my highest good now. I know that the Spirit is God. I know the Spirit is on the engine of my train, the front of my train. And I'm on that train again, headed to Orlando, Florida. I'm on that train and everybody in here is on a train headed somewhere today. And I know it's a wonderful place. I know you know you're good. And I am so grateful for the fact that everybody here knows where they're going. And if you don't, just get on the train anyway, because it's going to be all right. So I release this to the Lord in such gratitude, knowing that it can only return to me as we reaching back into our future and getting where we need to be and being open and receptive to going. And so it is. Amen.
There was a time in my life I thought I had to do it all for myself. I didn't know the grace of God was sufficient. I didn't know the love of God was there. But now I can say, if you are discouraged, struggling just to make it through another day, you got to let it go. And this is what you have to say. Come on, Seaside. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God to
spiritual revelation. Now say it like you mean it with your hand on your heart. I am open to spiritual revelation. And one more good old time. I am open to spiritual relation. Yeah.
Song of Grace. I'm living in love. I'm living in peace. I'm living my life for what I believe. Through joys and through fears, in this world I walk. God's grace shines on me, and it shines on us all. We are living in grace. We are living in grace. We are living in grace. We're living in love. We're living in peace. United we stand as one family. We honor all truth as together we walk. God's grace moves through me, and it moves through us all. We are living in grace. 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 Have a wonderful week, Seaside.